Okay, the skeletons we've talked about already. The nesting structures.
I love the idea of skeletons, by the way, because what it does is that, like most people, it's a way of saying that, look, center matters. Not just the periphery, not just the skin, but the center matters, because the skeleton is simply lines running to the center. And that's what the focus is. So it's a perspective on the shape, which really is saying that there is an identity to this thing. There is a center to this thing. Look at it. And that's the skeleton. So that's like the thing that is really going to animate this shape. You won't get it.
God, you so get it. You're going to make me cry. That is exactly why I did that.
Wonderful.
Okay, so here's the periodic table. The icosahedron is the outside, the dodecahedron is the outside, the cube is the outside, the tetra is the outside, and the octa. And then here are the volume differences. This one, I use the skeleton so that the other ones get divided up. So the cube divided up using golden ratio numbers is beautiful. It really is beautiful. Then the others, I use just the modular difference between the whatever is inside and the outside shape.
We have a question.
Please.
In the chat, it's the question is, why is the octa at the beginning? The octahedron. Why do you choose to start that?
What has been done is that each shape is at the beginning in turn.
So it starts with the icosahedron, but then the octahedron has its place in the sun as well. Is that what he's asked? They are asking about?
It was only one sentence.
No, that's fine. I think yeah. But basically, what the periodic table is doing is that it is doing this entire mapping of each of these 5 shapes in the other 4. And it's a complete mapping. So in this mapping, there is no special place for octahedron. It is including it is including all shapes into all, any other shape.
And we're limited here to just the 5 Platonic solids, but this works with all of them.
Yeah.
But that's why my work always collapsed before, because it was just too much information. So let's look at the icosa. So here's the dodeca inside the icosahedron. And here, once again, what we had learned is we need that for these modular pieces. And it's just these beautiful, so in everything that I do what's the dimensions of each one of the shapes, how they look. Here's this here, I had to use the Pythagorean theorem because I didn't know, not everything fits into my measuring system. Maybe somebody can come up with how this is the square root of something. So then here is how this piece here, how to make them, and it always goes back to this constant here. So the cube, I was so thrilled with this one. So here is the bubble diamond again. And then what you do is you do the half, I call the bubble triangle, and then you put a half triangle inside of it. And then you just measure this distance up there, and that gives you that little jag there.
Nice.
And then this, here is, the edge is the square root of 2, 3bb. Then all of the rest of them is golden ratio squared, golden ratio to the 3rd power. It's just this beautiful symmetry of how this cube fits into the icosahedron, and I've never seen a cube and the icosahedron put together. And then even this little guy right here, to know what this triangle, that is the same proportions as a sphere bubble. I mean, a bubble diamond. So once again, the tetrahedron, it's just amazing how it divides up. And it's the only constant is the square root of 2. And then you can see here that there's some that the BB changes. Here's 2.25 and 3 is, the square root of 3, golden ratio to the third power. And here once again is how you divide the top with the golden ratio, and that gives you this line here. And then we know these two lines because we've had this up here. And then the octahedron that fits inside. This beautiful symmetry, because this is a different size, because before it fit inside the tetrahedron. This one, all of these need to fit inside the icosahedron. So it becomes the golden ratio times 9 BB. But it's always this beautiful symmetry that's going on. And you see that there's a 60-degree triangle inside there as well, which is that same, that where the icosa fit inside the octahedron, it's the same. So the dodecahedron, another beautiful, so here is the same shape that we had before. Now the icosahedron is inside instead of the dodecahedron being on the outside. And here you have all of the shapes and then the layout. And there's this 8-12 symmetry in the 20 triangles of the icosahedron. And that's what these are. This is double and this is the single. I won't go into the details here. Here's the beautiful of the cube inside the dodecahedron, and here's the layout. The tetrahedron, another beautiful. I mean, this is such a nice little, and what it does is it slices off the pentagon as a midpoint to an opposite corner.
Wow.
Just another, and then here's the layout. So this is all geared for you building this model and playing with it yourself. Here's the octahedron inside, another beautiful, very symmetrical. The cube. Dodecahedron, the icosahedron inside the cube, the dodecahedron inside the cube, the tetrahedron inside the cube. And here you see that 1/3, 2/3 division that we talked about earlier. And this comes to when we talk about the A and B modules of Fuller. And so here is the layout, the different shapes that you need to build it. Now the tetrahedron, I think it's really beautiful. And it shoots out of the center.
Wow.
And there's just this beautiful interconnectedness. And there's the layout. I mean, the dotted line always means that you score that, because these fold that way, these fold this way. And then the dodecahedron and the cube basically do the same thing. Because we saw earlier that the cube fits inside the dodecahedron. And then the octahedron inside the tetrahedron is just very simple, straightforward. And lastly, the octahedron. Now the shape I use, Fuller did the jitterbug, and this is, you can get rubber tubes and make these universal joints, and then get these sticks and make them 6BB. And so what it does is it collapses. It does the VE, the icosahedron, the octahedron, and the tetrahedron.
Wow.
So I use the same edge for the icosahedron that we did for it being the nesting dolls, for this edge of the octahedron here. It's all arbitrary. And so the icosahedron that fits in, these are called S module, that Fuller called them the S module, and it's the structural, the modular difference between the icosahedron and the octahedron. And then I connected the center to the outside, and here's all the different ways that it all, just as, here's the golden ratio. Again, division. Here I did the dodecahedron with the skeleton of the cube to give a better view of what's going on. And this was interesting. How am I going to explain all of those dimensions? And so I did all of these circles. I had to learn how to do, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And here are the different layouts. The cube that's inside there, it's very beautiful symmetry. This 1/3, 2/3 division. And then the tetrahedron that's inside of there, another beautiful symmetry.